Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum dear students. I am Shumail Sattar, SS Physics at DPS and College Sahiwal. Today we are going to discuss the short questions and the numerical problems from the chapter number 21, that is nuclear physics. So firstly we should recall some previous knowledge. Here we will discuss some important formulae. The first one is the formula for the mass defect, as you have already discussed, del m, which is equal to Z mp plus A minus Z into Mn minus mass of nucleus, where one atomic mass unit is equal to 931 mega electron volt. Here Z is the total number of protons in the nucleus and mp is the mass of a proton. Then Z mp is the total mass of all the protons. A minus Z is the total number of neutrons and Mn is the mass of a single neutron. So A minus Z into Mn is the total mass of all the neutrons, and the term M nucleus is experimentally measured mass of the entire nucleus. So this equation basically represents the difference in mass between the sum of the masses of its constituents and the mass of the nucleus itself. Secondly, we also know that del E, that is the energy, which is equal to del M mass defect into 931 mega electron volt. It means we can find the energy from the mass defect by simply multiplying 931 mega electron volt. And next we have discussed that the product of the decay constant, which is lambda, and half-life time is equal to 0.693. So from there we get the half-life, which is equal to 0.693 divided by lambda, where lambda is the decay constant, and to find out lambda we have this formula in which lambda is equal to 0.693 divided by half-life time. Secondly, we also know that in case of alpha decay or alpha emission, we have the equation in which x Az, where A is the mass number and Z is the atomic number or the charge number of the nucleus, and here X represents the parent element. After alpha decay, the parent element is changing into daughter element, in which the mass number is reduced by 4 and the atomic number is reduced by 2, plus in addition we get an alpha particle, which is helium element. Secondly, we know that the intensity of the emitted beam is equal to I naught e की power minus omega x. So you should keep in mind these important formulae. These will help in solving problems. So firstly, we will discuss the short questions. And first short question is 21.2, that is, why are heavy nuclei unstable? Heavy nuclei unstable क्यों होते हैं? The answer is the heavy nuclei have very small value of their binding energy per nucleon. जितने भी heavy nuclei हैं उन सब की binding energy बहुत कम होती है. So they are unstable and less energy is required to split heavy nuclei. इस कम बाइंडिंग एनर्जी की वजह से वो अनस्टेबल होते हैं और इसी की वजह से हम उन्हें बहुत कम एनर्जी देके स्प्लिट कर सकते हैं. 21.3 is, if a nucleus has a half-life of 1 year, does this mean that it will be completely decayed after 2 years? Explain. अगर एक न्यूक्लियस की हाफ लाइफ 1 ईयर है तो क्या वो 2 years के बाद completely decay हो सकता है? वजाहत करें. Answer is the half-life, that is T1/2 of a radioactive element, is the time in which half of the given sample of the element decays. As you already know, हाफ लाइफ टाइम वो टाइम है जिसमें किसी भी एलिमेंट की क्वांटिटी हाफ रह जाती है. एज डिके रेट डिक्रीजेज विद डिक्रीज ऑफ नंबर ऑफ रेडियो एक्टिव एटम्स, और जैसा कि हमें पता है कि जैसे ही रेडियो एक्टिव एटम्स कम होते जाएंगे तो उसके साथ ही डिके रेट भी डिक्रीज होता जाएगा. सो टोटल लाइफ इज मच ग्रेटर देन ट्वाइस ऑफ हाफ लाइफ. इसका मतलब टोटल लाइफ ट्वाइस ऑफ हाफ लाइफ से बहुत ज़्यादा है, एंड टोटल डिके इज पॉसिबल आफ्टर इनफाइनाइट ईयर्स. और टोटल डिके हम फाइंड नहीं कर सकते, क्यों? क्योंकि वो इनफाइनाइट ईयर्स में टेक प्लेस होगा, जिसकी वजह से हम उसे फाइंड नहीं कर सकते. सो अ न्यूक्लियस हैविंग हाफ लाइफ इक्वल टू 1 ईयर विल नॉट डिके कम्प्लीटली आफ्टर 2 ईयर्स. इसका मतलब अगर न्यूक्लियस जिसकी हाफ लाइफ 1 ईयर है तो 2 ईयर्स के बाद वो कम्प्लीटली डिके नहीं होगा, बल्कि कुछ अमाउंट डिके होगी 2 ईयर्स के बाद, और वो हम कैलकुलेट करेंगे आगे. If number of atoms of any radioactive element is equal to n naught, number of undecayed atoms after n half-lives can be calculated by this formula as you have discussed earlier. This is equal to 1/2 n into n naught. Here n is the number of half-lives. If we put n is equal to 2 as mentioned in the question, here we have given 2 years, so it means the number of half-life times is n is equal to 2. So the number of undecayed atoms after 2 half-lives becomes equal to 1/2. Put the value of n as 2, multiply by n naught, we get 1/4 n naught. And by dividing 1 by 4 we get 0.25 and its percentage is 25%. So this shows that 25% nuclei are left undecayed after 2 half-lives and 75% of the nuclei are decayed. So infinite time is required for an element to decay completely. 2 half-lives के बाद हमारे पास 75% एलिमेंट डिके होता है, जबकि टोटल डिके फाइंड करने के लिए हमारे पास इनफाइनाइट टाइम रिक्वायर है. तो इसका मतलब 2 हाफ लाइफ्स के बाद कोई भी एलिमेंट कंप्लीटली डिके नहीं हो सकता. नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज 21.4, that is what fraction of a radioactive sample decays after 2 half lives elapsed. ये क्वेश्चन भी बेसिकली प्रीवियस क्वेश्चन की तरह ही है. इसमें पूछा गया है कि 2 हाफ लाइफ्स गुजरने के बाद किसी भी रेडियोएक्टिव एलिमेंट की कितनी फ्रैक्शन डिके हो जाएगी. सो द आंसर इज, as we know that n is equal to 1/2 n into n naught. Here again n is the half life. If n naught is the original number of atoms, then the number of atom undecayed, which is equal to capital N, this can be found out by the formula 1/2. Put n is equal to 2 as again we are given the number of half lives which is 2. So 1/2 square into n naught, this is equal to 1/4 n naught. Again it is equal to 25% of the original number of atoms. So it means the number of atoms decayed, which is equal to, subtract this fraction from 100 and we get the number of atoms decayed is equal to 75%. इसका मतलब जैसे ही 2 हाफ लाइफ्स गुजरेंगी तो किसी भी रेडियोएक्टिव सैंपल की अमाउंट जो कि डिके हो चुकी है वो 75% है, और इसका मतलब ये कम्प्लीटली डिके नहीं हो सकता आफ्टर 2 हाफ लाइफ्स. Next question is 21.5, that is the radioactive element radium has a half-life of 1.6 into 10 raised to power 3 years. Since the earth is about 5 billion years old, how can you explain why we still can find this element in nature? अब क्वेश्चन की स्टेटमेंट ये है कि रेडियम 226 जिसकी हाफ लाइफ इतने ईयर्स है, जबकि अर्थ जो है वो तो हमारे पास 5 बिलियन ईयर्स ओल्ड है. तो इसका मतलब हम इसे अभी भी कैसे फाइंड कर सकते हैं नेचर में, या ये एलिमेंट नेचर में अभी भी कैसे एग्जिस्ट कर सकता है. सो द आंसर इज, द हाफ लाइफ ऑफ रेडियम इज 1.6 into 10 raised to power 3 years, but its total life is equal to इन्फिनिटी. जैसा कि हमने ऑलरेडी डिस्कस कर लिया कि किसी भी एलिमेंट का डिकेइंग टाइम फाइंड करना इम्पॉसिबल है, या उसकी टोटल लाइफ फाइंड करना इम्पॉसिबल है, क्योंकि वो इन्फिनिट ईयर्स में टोटली डिके होगा. तो इसका मतलब अगर इसकी हाफ लाइफ 1.6 into 10 raised to power 3 years है, लेकिन इसकी टोटल लाइफ जो है वो तो इन्फिनिटी के इक्वल है, जिसको हम फाइंड नहीं कर सकते. सो दिस इज द कॉमन प्रॉपर्टी ऑफ ऑल द रेडियोएक्टिव एलिमेंट्स, और ये सारे रेडियोएक्टिव एलिमेंट्स में सेम ही है, दैट इज दे फुली डिके इन इनफाइनाइट टाइम. इसका मतलब सारे के सारे रेडियोएक्टिव एलिमेंट्स कंप्लीटली डिके इनफाइनाइट टाइम में होंगे, जिसे हम कैलकुलेट नहीं कर सकते. सो दैट इज व्हाई द रेडियम स्टिल फाउंड ऑन अर्थ व्हाइल अर्थ्स लाइफ इज 5 बिलियन ईयर्स. इसका मतलब स्टिल रेडियम जो है वो नेचर में एग्जिस्ट करता है. Next question is 21.6, that is, describe a brief account of interaction of various types of radiation with matter. And the answer is electromagnetic radiations or photons interact with matter in three different ways, mainly depending upon their energy. As we already discussed that photons interact with matter in three different ways, and these three processes are, first one is the photoelectric effect, second one is the Compton effect, and third one is the pair production. Next question 21.7, that is, explain how alpha and beta particles may ionize an atom without directly hitting the electrons. And what is the difference in the action of the two particles for producing ionization? हमें ये बताना है कि अल्फा और बीटा पार्टिकल्स दोनों किसी भी एटम को आयोनाइज कैसे करते हैं विदाउट हिटिंग द इलेक्ट्रॉन्स, और इन दोनों के इस एक्शन में क्या डिफरेंस है. So the answer is the alpha and beta particles are electrically charged. As we know that these particles are already electrically charged, therefore they can cause ionization without hitting an atom, जिसका मतलब कि वो without hitting या टकराए बगैर भी किसी एटम को आयोनाइज कर सकता है. They cause this ionization by repelling or attracting the electrons of the target atom. अब ये आयोनाइज कैसे करेगा? या तो by attracting करेगा या सेकेंड केस है ये रिपल्शन से करेगा. That depends upon the type of the charge on the particle. So we have two cases here. First case is the alpha particle is positively charged particle, therefore it ionizes the atom through electrostatic force of attraction. अल्फा पार्टिकल क्योंकि पॉजिटिवली चार्ज पार्टिकल होता है, इसलिए ये हमेशा किसी भी एटम को बाय इलेक्ट्रोस्टैटिक फोर्स ऑफ अट्रैक्शन से आयोनाइज करेगा. While the beta particle is a negatively charged particle, we know that beta carries negative charge, therefore it ionizes the atom through electrostatic force of रिपल्शन. इस वजह से ये किसी भी एटम को इलेक्ट्रोस्टैटिक फोर्स ऑफ रिपल्शन की मदद से आयोनाइज करेगा. एंड व्हाट इज द डिफरेंस इन देयर एक्शन? द अल्फा पार्टिकल पुल्स एन इलेक्ट्रॉन आउट ऑफ द एटम फॉर आयोनाइजिंग एन एटम. अल्फा पार्टिकल किसी भी एटम में से इलेक्ट्रॉन को अट्रैक्ट करेगा उसे आयोनाइज करने के लिए, जबकि बीटा पार्टिकल रिपेल्स एन इलेक्ट्रॉन आउट ऑफ द एटम इन आयोनाइजिंग द एटम. जबकि बीटा पार्टिकल जो है वो अपने नेगेटिव चार्ज की वजह से इलेक्ट्रॉन को रिपेल करेगा और उसे आयोनाइज कर देगा एटम को. सेकंड क्वेश्चन इज 21.8, which is a particle which produces more ionization is less penetrating. Why? कोई भी ऐसा पार्टिकल जो ज़्यादा आयोनाइजेशन प्रोड्यूस करता है वो लेस पेनिट्रेटिंग होता है, इसकी क्या रीज़न है? सो द आंसर इज a particle with greater ionizing power will lose its whole of energy in a short distance inside a medium. कोई भी ऐसा पार्टिकल जिसकी आयोनाइजिंग पावर ज़्यादा होगी वो बहुत जल्दी अपनी एनर्जी, सारी की सारी एनर्जी बहुत कम डिस्टेंस में लूज कर देगा जैसे ही वो किसी मीडियम में एंटर होगा. सो इट्स रेंज इन दैट मीडियम इज़ वेरी स्मॉल. इसका मतलब कि अगर वो जल्दी अपनी एनर्जी को लूज कर रहा है तो उसकी उस मीडियम में रेंज बहुत स्मॉल है पेनिट्रेट करने की. द रिवर्स इज द केस फॉर पार्टिकल ऑफ लेस आयोनाइजिंग पावर, that it will lose less amount of energy so that its range is large. अब रिवर्स हो जाएगा ऐसे केस में अगर किसी भी पार्टिकल की पावर, आयोनाइजिंग पावर कम होगी तो इसका मतलब वो बहुत कम एनर्जी लूज करेगा किसी भी मीडियम में, और इसी तरह उसकी पेनिट्रेशन पावर ज़्यादा हो जाएगी. तो इसका मतलब पार्टिकल की आयोनाइजिंग पावर ज़्यादा है तो पेनिट्रेटिंग पावर कम होगी. पेनिट्रेटिंग पावर मतलब टू पेनिट्रेट थ्रू द मीडियम, और अगर इसकी आयोनाइजिंग पावर कम है तो उसकी पेनिट्रेशन ज़्यादा होगी. So next question is 21.9, that is, what information is revealed by the length and shape of the tracks of an incident particle in Wilson cloud chamber? And the answer is, in Wilson cloud chamber, the length and shape of the tracks gives the following information. First case is for alpha particles. The straight, continuous and thicker tracks are for alpha particles which has greater mass as well as greater ionizing power. विल्सन क्लाउड चैम्बर में अल्फा पार्टिकल्स के लिए हमारे पास जो ट्रैक्स ऑब्जर्व किए जाते हैं वो स्ट्रेट होते हैं, कंटिन्यूस होते हैं और थिक होते हैं और ज़्यादा मैस ऑक्यूपाई करते हैं जिसकी वजह से उसकी आयोनाइजिंग पावर भी ज़्यादा होती है. But in case of beta particles, the thinner and short and discontinuous tracks are beta particles which has very less mass and less value of ionizing power. बीटा पार्टिकल्स के केस में यही ट्रैक्स थिन, शॉर्ट और डिसकंटिन्यूअस हो जाते हैं जिनका मैस कम होता है और इसकी आयोनाइजिंग पावर भी अल्फा पार्टिकल्स की निस्बत कम होती है. थर्ड वन इज द गैमा रेज. Gamma rays leave no definite tracks along their path because of high penetrating power and no ionizing power. Gamma rays कोई भी tracks छोड़ती नहीं है. क्यों? क्योंकि इनकी penetration power बहुत ज़्यादा होती है और ionizing बिल्कुल ना होने के बराबर है. इस वजह से हम gamma rays के केस में कोई भी tracks observe नहीं कर पाते. Next question is 21.10, that is, why must a Geiger Moller tube for detecting alpha particles have a very thin end window, and why does the Geiger Moller tube for detecting gamma rays not need a window at all? अल्फा पार्टिकल्स को डिटेक्ट करने के लिए गीगर मोलर ट्यूब में एक थिन एंड विंडो यूज की जाती है, लेकिन गैमा रेज के डिटेक्शन में यही विंडो की ज़रूरत नहीं होती. क्यों? इसकी क्या रीज़न है? So the answer is, the Geiger Moller tube have a very thin end window for detecting alpha particles because this window provides easy way for the low energy and low penetrating particles to enter into the tube. अल्फा पार्टिकल्स की डिटेक्शन के लिए इसमें विंडो इसलिए होती है क्योंकि ये लो एनर्जी और लो पेनिट्रेशन पार्टिकल्स को ट्यूब में एंटर करने के लिए हेल्पफुल होती है. For detecting gamma rays, there is no need of such a window because gamma rays are highly penetrating. Gamma rays क्योंकि ऑलरेडी बहुत highly penetrating होती हैं, इसलिए इस केस में हमें कोई भी ऐसी विंडो की ज़रूरत नहीं पड़ती. Question 21.11 is, describe the principle of operation of a solid state detector of ionizing radiation in terms of generation and detection of charge carriers. And the answer is, its principle is based upon the production of electron hole pair to cause current pulse. इसमें हमारे पास एक इलेक्ट्रॉन होल पेयर प्रोड्यूस होता है जो कि एक करंट पल्स को कॉज करता है. So this is the principle of solid state detector. Second is 21.12, that is, what do we mean by the term critical mass? And the answer is, the quantity of mass which is enough to absorb most of all of the neutrons produced in fission chain reaction to give tremendous energy like atom bomb is called critical mass. यानी mass की ऐसी क्वांटिटी जो कि सारे के सारे न्यूट्रॉन्स को एब्जॉर्ब करने की कैपेसिटी रखती है और एज अ रिजल्ट हमें एक लार्ज अमाउंट ऑफ एनर्जी देती है इन द फॉर्म ऑफ एटॉमिक बॉम्ब is called critical mass. And the next question is 21.13, which is, discuss the advantages and disadvantages of nuclear power compared to the use of fossil fuel generated power. And the answer is, we have to compare the advantages of nuclear power as compared to fuel generated power. And the first advantage of nuclear power is, it is of large amount, while in case of fuel generated power, it is not of large amount. In case of nuclear power, it is permanent for a given period of time, while in case of fuel generated power, it is not permanent and not for long period of time. In case of nuclear power, it is cheaper source for electricity, while in case of fuel generated power, it is not cheaper. In case of nuclear power, it does not produce smoke, while in case of fuel generated power, it produces smoke. And the last advantage of nuclear power is, waste product can be processed, while in case of fuel generated power, waste product cannot be reprocessed. Now the disadvantages is, nuclear power fossil fuel. It has radiation effects and it is dangerous, while fuel generated power has no such effects and it is not dangerous. Next question 12.14 is, what factors make a fusion reaction difficult to achieve? And the answer is, the fusion reaction requires large energy and temperature up to 1,000,000 degrees centigrade, and it is very difficult to achieve such requirements, that is high temperature and energy. That is why it is difficult to achieve. इसका मतलब फ्यूजन रिएक्शन को अचीव करने के लिए हमें बहुत लार्ज अमाउंट ऑफ एनर्जी और बहुत हाई टेम्परेचर की ज़रूरत होती है, जो कि डिफ़िकल्ट कंडीशंस हैं टू अचीव, जिसकी वजह से फ्यूजन रिएक्शन को अचीव करना मुश्किल है। 12.15 is discuss the advantages and disadvantages of fission power from the point of safety, pollution and resources. So the advantages and disadvantages of fission power from the point of safety is the problem of storing radioactive waste, low level release of radioactive material into the air and groundwater, the risk of accidental release of large amounts of radioactivity. During fission of uranium, about 200 mega electron volt of energy is released that comes from the series of beta decays of fission fragment. This fact creates a serious problem with respect to control and safety of reactors. And from environmental pollution point of view, fission power produces no environmental pollution while burning of coal, oil and natural gas, which produces sulfur oxides, carbon dioxides and other poisons that pollute the environment. And the third one are the resources. Fissionable material is not easily available. Natural uranium contains only 0.7% uranium, which is fissionable, and 99.3% uranium, which is not fissionable. 21.16 is, what do you understand by background radiation? State two sources of this radiation. बैकग्राउंड रेडिएशन किसे कहते हैं और इसके कोई से दो सोर्सेज बयान करने हैं। तो द आंसर इज रेडिएशन प्रेजेंट अराउंड अस इज नोन एज बैकग्राउंड रेडिएशन. The radiations present due to cosmic rays and due to presence of radioactive materials under the crust of Earth are called background radiations. यानी ऐसी सारी radiations जो हमारे इन्वायरमेंट में हमारे अराउंड एग्जिस्ट करती हैं वो बैकग्राउंड रेडिएशंस होती हैं. और इनके दो सोर्सेज क्या हैं? फर्स्ट सोर्स इज इट इज़ प्रोड्यूस्ड ड्यू टू कॉस्मिक रेज एंड द सेकेंड सोर्स इज इट इज़ प्रोड्यूस्ड ड्यू टू रेडियो एक्टिव मटीरियल्स that exist under the crust of Earth. And the last question is 21.17, which is, if you swallowed an alpha source and a beta source, which would be more dangerous to you? Explain why. अगर आप अल्फा और बीटा सोर्स को निगल लेते हैं तो दोनों में से कौन सा ज़्यादा डेंजरस होता है आपके लिए और इसकी रीज़न क्या है? So the answer is, if someone swallowed an alpha source, then alpha particles will damage more his blood cells due to its high ionizing power as compared to beta particles. अगर कोई भी पर्सन अल्फा सोर्स को स्वेलो कर लेता है तो क्योंकि अल्फा पार्टिकल्स की आयोनाइजिंग पावर बीटा पार्टिकल्स के मुकाबले में ज़्यादा है, तो इसका मतलब ये ज़्यादा हमारे ब्लड सेल्स को डैमेज कर सकता है. तो इसका मतलब अल्फा सोर्स ज़्यादा डेंजरस है ड्यू टू इट्स हाई ionizing power as compared to beta source. Now we will discuss the numerical problems. First is 21.1. Find the mass effect and binding energy for tritium if the atomic mass of tritium is 3.016049 atomic mass unit. So the solution is, firstly we will write the given data as we are given the mass of tritium, that is 3.016049 atomic mass unit, and we also know the mass of proton, that is 1.007276 atomic mass unit, and mass of neutron, that is 1.008665 atomic mass unit, and we have to find the mass defect and the binding energy. Now we will put this formula del m, which is equal to ZMP plus A minus Z Mn minus mass of nucleus. As we already know with these terms, so we will put the values of these terms and we get del M, which is equal to Z, that is 1, into MP, that is the mass of proton 1.007276 atomic mass unit, plus 2, that is the value of A minus Z, into mass of neutron, that is 1.008665 atomic mass unit, minus the mass of nucleus, that is 3.016049 atomic mass unit. So after calculating these values, we will get del M, which is equal to 0.00855 atomic mass unit. And as we know that 1 atomic mass unit is equal to 931 mega electron volt, so we can find the energy from here. Del E, which is equal to 931 mega electron volt multiplied by del M. So we will put the values of del M, that is 0.00855 into 931 mega electron volt, and we will get the value of binding energy, that is equal to 7.97 mega electron volt. 21.2 is the half-life of strontium is 9.70 hours. Find its decay constant. Again, we will write the given data. Half-life of strontium is given, that is 9.70 hours. Convert this value into seconds. So for this, we will simply multiply 9.70 with 60 into 60 seconds, and we will get the value of half-life in seconds, which is 34920 second. And we have to calculate the decay constant, that is represented by lambda. So the formula is the half-life is equal to 0.693 divided by lambda. From here, the lambda will become equal to 0.693 divided by the half-life time. Putting the values, we get 0.693 divided by the half-life time is given, that is 34920 second. So we get the value of decay constant lambda, which is equal to 1.98 into 10 raised to power 5 per second. 21.3 is the element protactinium is unstable and decays by beta emission with a half-life of 6.66 hours. State the nuclear reaction and the daughter nuclei. So firstly, we will write the given data. Here the half-life time of protactinium is given, that is 6.66 hours. Again, we will convert it into seconds by multiplying this value with 3600. So by multiplying this, we get the half-life time of protactinium, which is equal to 23976 seconds, and we have to find the nuclear reaction and the daughter nuclei. So here we will apply the formula X A Z after reaction Y A Z plus 1 plus electron 0 minus 1, as this reaction is indicating a beta decay or beta emission in which the mass number remains same while the atomic number is increased by 1, and in addition we get an electron. So in the present case, protactinium when decays, it converted into uranium-234-92. As you can see that the mass number remains same while the atomic number is increased by 1. So we get the uranium element with the emission of a beta particle. So here the protactinium is the parent element and uranium-234 is the daughter element. So this is the reaction and this is the daughter nuclei obtained as a result of this reaction. 21.4 is find the energy associated with the following reaction, where the mass of protium is equal to 1.0077 atomic mass unit. The reaction is nitrogen 14 plus helium. After reaction, oxygen 17 plus protium. What does negative sign indicate? And the solution is, we will write this equation in which nitrogen 14 and helium reacts, and after reaction we get oxygen 17 and protium, and we have to find out the energy associated in this reaction. So the formula is, write the equation. As we know that energy is released as a result of this reaction, so again by putting the formula for mass defect del M, which is equal to, according to the equation, it will be equal to mass of N14 plus mass of helium minus the mass of oxygen 17 plus the mass of protium. So by putting the values in this equation, we get mass of N14, that is 14.0031 atomic mass unit, plus the mass of helium or alpha particle, that is 4.00246 atomic mass unit, minus the mass of oxygen 17, that is 16.991 atomic mass unit, plus the mass of protium, that is 1.0073 atomic mass unit. यहाँ हमने नेगेटिव साइन प्रोडक्ट्स के लिए यूज़ किया है, यानी मैस डिफेक्ट के लिए सिंपली हम क्या करते हैं कि रिएक्टेंट के मैसेस को ऐड कर देते हैं और उसमें से सब्ट्रैक्ट कर देते हैं सम ऑफ द मैसेज ऑफ द प्रोडक्ट्स। तो सेम इक्वेशन यहाँ पे अप्लाई की, इनकी वैल्यूज पुट की और यहाँ से हमारे पास क्या आया, दिस सम इज इक्वल टू 18.0057 एटॉमिक मास यूनिट माइनस this sum will give us 18.0069 atomic mass unit. So by subtracting these values, we get del m, which is equal to minus 0.0012 atomic mass unit. So this is the value for the mass defect. And from here we can also calculate the energy, that is equal to del E, which is equal to del m into 931 mega electron volt. So we will put the value of del m, that is minus 0.0012 multiplied by 931. So we will get minus 1.12 mega electron volt after multiplying these values. Here the negative sign indicates that the reaction needs energy for its startup. यानी इस रिएक्शन को स्टार्ट करने से पहले हमें इतनी अमाउंट ऑफ एनर्जी रिक्वायर होगी। Next 21.5 is determine the energy associated with the following reaction, where mass of C14 is given, that is 14.0077 atomic mass unit. Again a reaction is given in which C14 splits into N14 with the emission of an electron. Now the solution is, firstly we will write this equation and we have to find the energy associated. So we will repeat the process as we used in the previous numerical. Firstly we will write the formula, as we know that energy is released as a result of this reaction. So again by applying the formula for mass defect, we get del m, which is equal to mass of C14 minus the mass of products. So here we have mass of N14 plus mass of electron. So putting the values of their masses, mass of C14 is 14.00891 atomic mass unit minus the mass of N14 is 14.0067 atomic mass unit plus the mass of electron is 0.000548 atomic mass unit. The first value will remain same, and by adding these two values we get 14.0072 atomic mass unit. Now we have to subtract the values and we will get the value of mass defect, that is equal to 0.00167 atomic mass unit. Again for obtaining the energy we have to multiply the value of this mass defect with 931 mega electron volt. So by multiplying 0.00167 with 931 we get the value of the energy as 1.55 mega electron volt. So this amount of energy is the energy associated with this reaction. Next is 21.6, that is if uranium-233 decays twice by alpha emission, what is the resulting isotope? अगर यूरेनियम दो बार अल्फा एमिशन के थ्रू डिके हो तो हमारे पास रिजल्टिंग आइसोटोप क्या बनेगा? So in given data we are given that uranium is decayed twice by alpha emission and we have to find out the resulting isotope. So let's find it. Firstly we will write the formula for alpha emission. As we know that capital X represents the parent element while capital Y represents the daughter element or the daughter nuclei, and in case of alpha emission the mass number reduced by 4 while the atomic number is reduced by 2. And in addition we get a helium nuclei or an alpha particle. So apply this formula to the present case in which we have a uranium-233 as parent nuclei. it will decay through alpha emission. Its mass number will reduced by 4 and it becomes 229, and its atomic number is reduced by 2 and it becomes 90, and in addition again we get a alpha particle, that is helium nuclei. Here the daughter nuclei, that is Y22990, is actually the thorium element having the mass number 229 and the atomic number 90. So when this daughter nuclei is decayed second time, it will change into radium element having the mass number 225 and the atomic number 88, and again an alpha particle is emitted. So when uranium-233 is decayed twice by alpha emission, then radium-88 is formed, hence resulting isotope is radium. Next is 21.7, that is calculate the energy in mega electron volt released in the following fusion reaction. And the reaction is deuterium and tritium nuclei reacts and forms a alpha particle and releases a neutron. So we have to find the energy released in the following reaction. As we can see that these two isotopes of hydrogen fuses to form an alpha particle and a neutron. So we have to find the energy released in this fusion reaction. We will apply the formula H21, that is deuterium, and H31, that is tritium. After reaction it forms helium nuclei and releases a neutron, and in addition it also releases some amount of energy. So we are interested to find this amount of energy. Again apply the formula for mass defect, del M, which is equal to mass of deuterium plus mass of tritium minus the mass of helium nuclei plus the mass of neutron. So by putting the values of their masses we get 2.014102 atomic mass unit, that is the mass of deuterium, plus 3.016050 atomic mass unit, that is the mass of tritium, minus the mass of helium is 4.002603 atomic mass unit, plus 1.008665 atomic mass unit, that is the mass of neutron. So by simplifying these brackets we get their sum, which is equal to 5.030152 atomic mass unit, minus their sum will give us 5.0011268 atomic mass unit. So after subtracting these values we get the value of mass defect, that is equal to 0.0188884 atomic mass unit. Again we can calculate the energy, or we have to multiply this mass defect with 931 mega electron volt. So we get 0.018884 multiplied by 931 and we get the energy released as 17.6 mega electron volt. So this is the energy released in this fusion reaction. And the last numerical is 21.8, which is a sheet of lead that is 5 mm thick. Reduce the intensity of a beam of gamma rays by a factor of 0.4. Find half value thickness of lead sheet, which will reduce the intensity to half of its initial value. Now firstly we will write the given data, and here we have two cases. Case 1 is the thickness that is given, which is x1. It is equal to 5 mm. So converting this into meter, we get 5 into 10 raised to power minus 3 meter. And intensity is also given, that is I1, which is 0.4 I0. And in second case, the second intensity I2 is given, that is 0.5 I0. And we have to find the thickness of lead sheet, that is represented by x2. So by applying the formula, as we know that the intensity is given by this equation, that is I is equal to I0 e to power minus omega x. So for case 1, this formula will become I1, that is equal to I0 e to power minus omega x1. So we are given the value of I1, that is 0.4 I0, which is equal to I0 e to power minus omega x1. Here we can see that I0 will be cancelled out with I0 on the other side of the equation, and we get 0.4 which is equal to e की पावर माइनस ओमेगा x1। यहाँ एक्सपोनेंशियल को ख़त्म करने के लिए हम दोनों साइड पे नेचुरल लॉग लेंगे एंड वी गेट नेचुरल लॉग ऑफ 0.4 विच इज़ इक्वल टू माइनस ओमेगा x1। जैसे कि हमें पता है कि नेचुरल लॉग और एक्सपोनेंशियल एक दूसरे को कैंसिल कर देती हैं, तो यहाँ से हमारे पास इक्वेशन 1 आ जाएगी। नाउ फॉर द केस 2 I2 which is equal to I naught e की पावर माइनस ओमेगा x2. So here we have the value of I2 that is 0.5 I naught which is equal to I naught e की minus omega x2. Again I naught will be cancelled by I naught and we get 0.5 that is equal to e की power minus omega x2. Again to cancel this exponential we will take the natural log on both sides and we get natural log of 0.5 which is equal to minus omega x2 and this is the equation 2. Now by dividing 1 and 2 we get minus omega x2 divided by minus omega x1 which is equal to natural log of 0.5 divided by natural log of 0.4. As we can see that this minus omega and minus omega will be cancelled and we get x2 divided by x1 which is equal to the value of natural log of 0.5 is 0.693 divided by the value of natural log of 0.4 is 0.916. So from here we can rearrange this formula and for x2 it will be equal to 0.693 multiplied by x1 divided by 0.916. So here we will put the value of x1 to find out the value of x2 and we have x2 which is equal to 0.693 multiplied by the value of x1 that is already given which is 5 into 10 raised to power minus 3 divided by 0.916. By calculating these values we get the value of x2 3.78 into 10 raised to power minus 3. As we know that 10 raised to power minus 3 is equal to milli, so we will convert this into 3.78 millimeter. So here the thickness of the lead sheet x2 is equal to 3.78 millimeter. So this is the last numerical of our today's lecture. Hope you will understand it. Practice the numericals again and again. Good luck. That's all for today. Thank you so much for listening.